You can use, so many different tools to recruit somebody, with money, being the most important one. Now, if you're a guy who's got, access to the local Communist Party, that's moderately interesting to me. It's not terribly important. That might be worth a couple $1,000 a month. If you're going to give me Osama bin Laden's location, that's going to be worth $25 million. And I'm happy to give it to you in gold, in diamonds, in cash. We can set up a bank account for you. We can give it to you in land, in any country that you want to go to. We can work something out. But it's going to be different for every single person. It's going to be tailored. It's not unheard of for somebody to want the money, let's say, in diamonds. And so we've got a relationship with a guy who has access to the diamonds. I'm going to get, 30 different diamonds in all different sizes and colors and clarity and shape. And I'm going to give you the diamonds. And then if you need to cash in a diamond, here's a phone number that you call and you ask for Mike. And the person's going to say that Mike's not in right now. May I take a message? And you say, tell him that his Uncle Chuck says hello and he hopes to see him at Christmas. And that means meet me in 24 hours at the coffee shop at such and such an intersection. And an officer will show up with an envelope of cash. You cash in one of your diamonds, and then we just wait for the next encounter.
So I'm trying to imagine. So I guess everyone's different. Would it be right by saying, because I'm shocked that money is the number one.
Are you?
But I'm also not. No. Because
don't be.
As I was thinking, because
people are greedy bastards.
Am I right by saying that because probably the people CIA would be recruiting are probably not wealthy people?
Correct. They're mostly government employees.
Yeah, so they're all quite underpaid. So they would take cash.
Sure.
Yeah. So what about for someone who, and I was actually also thinking this, I'm like, am I motivated by money? I think to some degree. And what I was thinking is it would come down to how much and in which time frame, because that's how like the mind works. Because if somebody said, I'll give you $1 million for doing this, if I get $1 million straight away, that's exciting. But if I got $1 million spread out over a year or something like that, I'd be like, I could make that, you know what I mean? So,
but if you're a government employee, in some third world country, making $10,000 or $12,000 a year, and I'm offering you $50,000, like right now. $50,000 is not a lot of money for the CIA, but it's life changing for you. Mm-hmm. If you're, some Afghan functionary in the government or, from whatever country, it's life changing. Mm-hmm. You can pay off your entire family's debts. You can buy a piece of land.
Yeah. So what are the other ones then? So if you're trying to scope somebody out, you're like, that person, money's not going to sway them. What would be my other approach?
Well, like I said, here early on in the relationship, you're trying to determine what the vulnerability is. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, at least in the course of my career, it was medical care. I had a guy volunteer once because his wife had breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And we were living in a third world country and the medical care was substandard. And this guy really loved his wife. And he's like, can you help her? Like, yeah, of course I can. We'll get her to the Mayo Clinic and she'll have the best cancer treatment that's available anywhere. And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about, so you mentioned before, so ideology, mm-hmm. Coercion, I think people talk about, but you kind of ruled that one out. So you're saying it's completely, because I was thinking about it, I'm like, I think the only time you would ever really use is if you never wanted to ever have that person ever like you ever again.
Or look at it this way. If somebody tried to use coercion against me, mm-hmm. I might say, okay, meet me at 3:00 in the morning at this intersection. And then I'd blow his brains out. Because if he's going to try to ruin my life, and put my life and my freedom in jeopardy, he's going to die.
So talk to me about ideology then. Ideology and the ego. Like, how are you? I guess I'm trying to just sort of dissect. Like, if I'm going to sit down and read somebody, I guess you may have one approach, because you said before, I don't have a plan B or a C. So you're kind of going in, asking someone of something, but you must be so certain that that is going to work on them.
Well, yes, but let me explain. So there is such a thing called a cold pitch. Cold pitches almost never, ever work. That is, I knock on your door. I say, I'm Bob from the CIA, and I know who you are, and I need this information from you. That never works. First of all, maybe I'm not Bob from the CIA. Maybe I'm Igor from the KGB. Or maybe I'm from your own police force and you're trying to entrap me. And so usually people run screaming from the room. They call the cops. They call their service. You get expelled. It's a big kerfuffle. So cold pitches don't work. So normally you work on a person for long enough that you know they're going to say yes to the pitch, and you know exactly what it is that they're going to want from you, right? You never go in unprepared. I had a station chief once tell me that in the 25 plus years he was at the CIA, he never had a target say no. And I can tell you, in my 15 years, I never had a target say no. Never. Because if they say no, you're in a heap of trouble. You're probably going to get expelled from that country. Because if they say no to you, they're probably going to report you to their version of the FBI, and then it's going to be an international incident. So you have to be 100% sure that they're just as into this as you are. And this is going to be a mutually beneficial